In this video I want to show you how I knit these mitered mittens. Hope I'm saying that right. In the video I will show you step by step how to knit the mitten from start to finish, and I will link to the site where I post the pattern with stitch numbers and other information. I will place that link in the text box under the video in YouTube. And this is how it looks on the other side. So hope everybody will enjoy. Thank you. I begin by casting on, and the first thing I do is to make a slip knot and place it on the first needle, and this will be my first stitch. And then to cast on, I just hold my first stitch in my left hand like this. I hold my yarn in my right hand, pinched between my middle finger and my thumb. Then I use my index finger and I go from down and up, and I twist so that I get a loop around my index finger here. Then I place my knitting needle on top of the yarn and move it down to the tip of my index finger, and then I just slip my loop onto the needle, and then I just place it next to the first stitch. So index finger from down and up, twist to make a loop, knitting needle on top of the yarn, moving down to the tip of the index finger, up through the loop and slip it onto the needle and place it next to the last stitch I cast on. And I just continue until I have the number of stitches on my needle that I want. And when I move to the next needle, I just place it underneath like this, and I just hold them here at the last stitch, and I continue to cast on in the same way. I make sure the first stitch here is placed close to the last stitch here, and I just continue until I have my stitches evenly distributed on 4 needles. I'm finished with my cast on and I'm ready to knit. The first and last needle I cast on I have placed on top of the 2 others, so that they are not in conflict when I begin knitting. It's just to make it easier for me. And the first thing I will do is to knit ribbing, and I will knit 2 and purl 2. And what I do is, when I knit, I begin here and I stick my needle through the stitch from down and up, but I have to just loosen it a little bit. My slip knot was a bit too tight. I can tell you this first, the way I cast on will make a really good looking edge and it will be really elastic, but the first row will be a bit slow to knit because none of the stitches are locked. And by that I mean that when you knit one, you could move it and pull it. I will show you. so it'll feel a bit unstable on the first row. But I'll begin and I knit 2. I stick my needle through the stitch from down and up like this. I move to the tip of my index finger underneath the yarn, and I bring the yarn through the stitch and I slip it off the needle like this. And I make sure that it ends up close to the last stitch here. And I repeat up through the stitch to the tip of my index finger. I go under the yarn, bring it through the stitch and slip it off the needle. And here you can see if I pull, I will pull the yarn and I will get a gap like this. So try to avoid pulling. If you do, to fix it, just make sure on the next stitch you do not pull. I will show you, but first when I purl, I begin here at the tip of my index finger. I move behind the yarn and up through the stitch like this, and I go back under behind the yarn and I bring the yarn through the stitch and slip it off the needle. And now I make sure not to pull. I just place it next to the last stitch here. And again, to purl, I begin at the tip of my index finger. I move behind the yarn, up through the stitch, and back behind the yarn, through the stitch, and slip it off the needle. You can see my gap is a lot smaller already. And now I will knit 2 again. And there you go, almost gone. So just make sure not to pull too much here. Just keep it relaxed. And when you are finished with the first row, you will not have to worry about this anymore, because then the first row has locked all the stitches, so it'll be more stable and faster to knit. So now just continue to knit the ribbing for as many rows as you like, or for as many that is stated in the pattern you are using. And then I will get back to you with the next step. Now my ribbing is finished, and I will show you how to knit the pattern for the mittens. And the pattern consists of 2 rows that will be repeated over and over again. And the first row goes like this. I knit the first stitch, then I make one. I make one by picking up the yarn between 2 stitches like this, and I place it on my left needle. I could just knit it this way like this, but I would get this big hole and I don't want that. So when I pick it up and place it on my left needle, I stick my right needle through the opposite way and I make them switch places, because then I twist the stitch like this and then I knit. And as you can see, no big hole. Then I continue to knit, and you may notice that when I pick up my purl stitches, I do not go from here, as I explained earlier when I do knit stitches. That is because these stitches, when I want to go from them being purl stitches to knit stitches, I do not want to twist them. and if I pick them up like this I will twist them. So I will go this way. You can see it opens up and is easy to pick up, and then I knit like this. And in the next row I will do as normal, because now it is already a knit stitch. So this is only to convert it from a purl stitch to a knit stitch. And now I have 2 stitches left on my needle. I will knit the first, place it back on my left needle. I will take the last stitch and slip it over, and then I will place it back again on the right needle. So I have added 1 stitch there and I have removed 1 here, and this is to make the angle pattern of the stitches. And so now I am at the middle on the top of the mitten, and I will do opposite on this needle. I will remove 1 stitch here and I will add 1 here. So I begin by just slipping 1 stitch. I knit the next. The first stitch I slip over the one I knitted, and then I continue to knit until I have 1 stitch left. Then I make 1, same way as before, pick up the yarn, place it on my left needle, twist and knit, and then I knit the last one. And I will repeat it on the other 2 needles. So that is the first row of the pattern. Now I have just cheated a little bit because these were the 2 last needles of the row. I had already done the 2 first the same way. And the second row of the pattern is knit stitches only. So you just knit throughout the entire row. And when you get to the beginning of the row again, you do the first row of the pattern where you add 1 stitch and remove 1 stitch, and so on. And then you just repeat those 2 rows, and I will get back to you with the next step. So now you can see I have knitted my pattern for quite a bit, and you can see it taking shape here, and it's time to prepare for the thumb. And I am now at a row where I do knit stitches only, just to make it a bit easier to remember what I should do. I will make 1 mitten where I place the thumb here. This will be for the right hand, and 1 mitten where I place the thumb here for the left hand. And here is the beginning of my row. I have already knitted this needle because I will do the left mitten first. So I will begin here on needle number 2, and again I'll do knit stitches only now, and my thumb will be on the 7 stitches in the middle. So I will begin by knitting 1, 2, because I have 11 stitches on each needle, so there is 2 there and 2 there, and we are left with the 7 stitches here in the middle for the thumb. After I have knitted these 2 stitches, I find just a piece of yarn in some contrasting color, and I just hold it like this, and I use it to knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches, and I'll just leave that, and I will go back, and I'll have to borrow this needle here, and I will pick up my working yarn again, and I'll just, the 2 first stitches I did, I'll just place them on this needle, and I will knit over my contrasting yarn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I will do the 2 last ones as well. There. And I will place these 11 stitches back onto their own needle. It looks a bit messy now, I know, but it will get better soon, very soon. There I have 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'll just slightly pull on each end here, and you can now see that I have 7 stitches here in a yarn that is loose and can be removed whenever I want. I have knitted over them again, and I am back on track here, and I can finish my row and keep knitting the pattern until it is time to make the tip of the mitten. That will be the next step that I want to show you, and then in the end how to use this piece right here to make the thumb hole and the thumb. Now I have knitted a bit more, and I am ready to decrease and make the tip. And now I've already done needles 1 and 2, but it is the same repetition on 3 and 4, so I will show you on those. So now I am doing row 1, where I increase here and I decrease there, but now I will not do my increase here, so I start with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 stitches, and I will simply knit until I have 2 stitches left, knit the first, place it back, last stitch, slip over, and back on right needle, as I have done all the way up here. So now I am left with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 stitches, and I do the same here. I make my decrease here first, and then here I should make one. I don't. I just knit the last, and then 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 stitches here as well. And here I am again at the beginning of the row, and row number 2, just knit stitches only, and then repeat row number 1. Do the decreases but not the increases. And when you have 8 stitches left, I will be back to show you how to finish the tip. Now I have 8 stitches left, 2 on each needle, and I have cut my yarn. And to finish the tip, I will just knit all 8 stitches, and when I slip them off the needle, I just pull my yarn end through the stitch. Like this. And I will just keep going until I have done all 8 stitches. So here's just one left. There. And now I will just find the hole here in the tip. I will bring my yarn end through the hole, and I will tighten this on the wrong side. And here I have the mitten. So, next step, thumb. Now I will begin to make the thumb, and to begin with I will pick up 7 stitches on each side of the pink yarn here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like this, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then I will begin to take away the pink yarn. Like this. And there I have 14 stitches to use for my thumb. Now I'm ready to begin to knit the thumb. I have my yarn here, and I bring it through the thumb hole like this, and I can twist it around my thumb just to make sure I don't lose it as easily, and that I am able to put some tension on this working yarn without pulling it all through. And then I will just knit knit stitches only now, and I will try to distribute the stitches on at least 3 needles to make it easier to work with. And I'll just keep going around and around until I have the length that I want before I come back and show you how to decrease for the tip. So now I have knitted the mitten so it has the length that I want, and I will begin to decrease, and I will do it in a quite simple manner. I knit 2, then I knit the next 2 together, and I knit 2, knit 2 together. Now I will continue on this needle as well, so that I have decreased by 3 stitches in this row, and then I will knit 1 row. In the next row I will decrease by 3 stitches again, and this will leave me, I believe, with 8 stitches. Then I will knit 1 more row, and I will finish the same way as I did here. And only thing left then will be to attach or loose yarn ends, and here where I begun the thumb I have a hole. Tighten the yarn end here, and just when you attach this yarn end, just make a couple stitches back and forth here to close this hole, and then your mitten will be finished.